A low, trembling growl cut through the heavy afternoon air, pulling all attention toward the edge of the clearing. The boy, no more than 7, crouched behind a fallen acacia trunk, his small hands pressed to his ears. Lions had gathered in the tall grass, their golden eyes gleaming like molten metal, tails flicking in anticipation. One of them, a young male with a scar across his snout, lay still for a moment, ears twitching, muscles coiled as if calculating his next move. From a few steps back, his mother froze, heart pounding. Every instinct screamed at her to run to him, yet she stayed rooted, weighing each movement. Her eyes flicked between the boy and the circling predators, noticing the subtle signs, the soft hiss of wind through the grass, the light rustle of paws against dry earth, the faint scent of musk carried on the warm breeze. She knelt slowly, lowering herself to appear smaller, less threatening. Her hand hovered over the boy's shoulder, steady but ready. A small voice whispered, "Stay, stay still." The words were barely audible, yet they carried an undeniable calm, a tether between her and her son. The lions shifted, their collective weight pressing into the earth, tails brushing the dry soil in unison. The young male pawed at the ground, a low rumble vibrating from his throat, yet he did not advance. Another lion, a female with deep amber eyes, stepped forward cautiously, her gaze flicking between the boy and the mother. She lowered herself, body flat, ears slightly back, a careful assessment, not aggression. Around them, the savanna held its breath. The wind stirred the dust, curling it into tiny whirls around the lion's legs. Sunlight slanted through the branches, casting long, trembling shadows. The boy's small chest rose and fell, breaths shallow but steady, anchored by his mother's quiet presence. She edged closer, inch by careful inch, mindful of the lion's every subtle reaction. One of the cubs, curious and inexperienced, padded toward the boy, sniffing the air. The mother extended a hand, not to touch, but to signal safety. The cub paused, tilted its head, then backed away, distracted by a fluttering leaf. Time stretched, each heartbeat measured against the lion's patient vigilance. Then, a sudden shift, a breeze carried the scent of nearby prey, and the tension eased, if only fractionally. The lion's attention flickered, some lowering their bodies to rest, others curling their tails around their paws. The boy's mother seized the moment, guiding him backward toward a safer path, her movements deliberate, calm. A final glance revealed the young male lion rising slowly, the scarred snout lifted to watch, then settling back on his haunches. The family of lions, with their quiet understanding of boundaries and patience, retreated into the tall golden grass. The boy's mother exhaled, relief breaking over her in gentle waves, her hand finding his small shoulder again. As they walked away, the boy holding her hand tightly, the sun dipped low, painting the horizon in hues of amber and rose. The lions vanished into the savanna's depth, leaving behind only rustling leaves and the soft hum of the wind. The mother and son paused for a moment, the memory of eyes in the grass, the weight of instinct and courage, imprinting itself forever. A shared glance, a silent acknowledgement of survival and trust, lingered between them. No words were needed, the moment existed quietly, fully, as if the earth itself had exhaled. The first light of dawn painted the savanna in muted golds and pinks. The boy's small hand clutched his mother's as they stepped over cracked earth and tangled roots, ears alert to the faintest stirrings. A soft murmur reached them, the low rumble of lions moving through distant grass. One lion, recognizable by the jagged scar on his snout, lay half-hidden in a shallow depression, ears flicking, eyes alert but unthreatening for now. The mother paused, noticing a slight limp in the lion's rear paw. Dust clung to his fur, and faint tufts of hair were missing near the shoulder. She crouched down briefly, careful not to make sudden movements. "His hurt," she whispered, her voice a thin thread through the morning calm. The boy watched her closely, absorbing both her caution and her compassion. The air smelled of dry grass and sun-warmed earth. Birds called from scattered acacia trees, and somewhere a distant river gurgled softly. The lion's breaths came in measured huffs, soft and rhythmic, almost like the exhalations of a sleeping child. Even with the threat of yesterday still hanging in memory, the mother sensed a fragile opportunity. The animals were not hunting, they were wary, assessing. She took a small step forward, then another, letting the boy mirror her movements. Each paw print in the dirt, each swish of tail in the brush, spoke a language she understood: patience, observation, and respect. The young male stirred, stretching, then lying still again, as if acknowledging her presence without hostility. The boy crouched beside a rock, eyes wide as a lioness appeared, her golden gaze steady and measured. She sniffed the air, then glanced at the boy, her muscles coiled but calm. The mother knelt slightly, hand resting lightly on the boy's back, guiding him to stay quiet, to remain a calm observer. "Easy, slow," she murmured, the words barely more than a breath. Time passed in this delicate rhythm. A breeze stirred, carrying the scent of acacia flowers and sun-baked soil. The lions shifted, some lying flat, others lifting heads to watch the humans at a distance. The mother took note of their interactions, the flick of an ear, a tail brushing the earth, a brief glance between two siblings. Each motion spoke volumes of trust, fear, and awareness. Then came the small, unexpected miracle. A lion cub, barely visible behind the taller grass, stepped forward. Its movements were hesitant, tentative, yet drawn by the mother's steady presence. The boy's hand twitched, wanting to reach out, but his mother's quiet grip reminded him to stay still. The cub sniffed, paused, then padded back to its mother. A subtle tension lingered, yet it was tempered by this gentle display of familial bonds. The mother guided the boy along a safer path, keeping the distance between them and the lions measured, respectful. The injured male watched silently, his amber eyes reflecting the soft morning light, before lowering himself to rest once more. By the time the sun rose fully above the horizon, painting the landscape in vibrant gold, the lions had receded into the depths of the savannah. The boy and his mother continued their cautious walk, each step carrying the memory of yesterday's peril and today's fragile connection. Dust swirled in the warm light, the wind whispered through acacia branches, and in the distance, the faintest growl reminded them of the wild, untamed lives they had glimpsed. They stopped on a small ridge, watching the grass sway in the morning sun. The mother bent to meet the boy's gaze. No words were needed. Both knew they had witnessed a rare balance of courage, patience, and trust. In that quiet acknowledgement, the world seemed to hold its breath once more. A faint, irregular cry echoed through the early morning mist, soft but unmistakable. The mother's eyes darted toward the source, a lion cub, separated from its mother, pawing at the dry soil and whining softly. Its fur was damp with dew, matted with tiny twigs, and its small frame trembled as it struggled to rise. The boy's eyes widened, a mix of fear and fascination. "Mom, look," he whispered, voice barely audible. The mother knelt slowly, hand extended in reassurance, her gaze never leaving the cub. She noticed a slight swelling along its flank, perhaps a thorn or a small injury. Every instinct urged her to move cautiously, to maintain the fragile peace they had established with the nearby pride. The surrounding lions had noticed the disturbance. The young male with the scar on his snout rose slowly, ears tilted back, muscles taut. A low rumble vibrated from his chest, a warning without aggression. The mother held the boy closer, her presence calm but firm. The cub whimpered again, nudging at the earth, vulnerable and unsure. The savannah held its breath. A breeze rustled dry grass, carrying the scent of dust, dew, and distant water. Birds fluttered in nervous arcs above the acacia trees. The lion's eyes tracked every subtle movement, the mother's careful steps, the boy's tentative curiosity, the cub's unsteady pawing. The mother edged toward the cub, guiding the boy to follow her slowly. "Stay behind me," she whispered, her tone steady and grounding. The cub froze for a moment, then sniffed at the mother's outstretched hand, hesitating. A tail flicked nervously, ears rotated, and the injured male shifted his weight, still watching but not advancing. The boy crouched, holding his breath, noticing the faint rise and fall of the lion's flanks, the twitch of whiskers, the gentle sway of tails. He felt the raw power in the air, yet also the restrained patience. For the first time, he sensed the lions not as immediate threats but as beings capable of judgment, of recognition, of choice. A subtle twist occurred. The mother noticed the cub's injury was minor, a thorn embedded in the soft tissue. With slow, deliberate care, she reached forward and nudged it free, her touch gentle and non-threatening. The cub paused, blinked, and pressed its small body against her hand before scampering back toward its mother. The surrounding lions observed quietly, muscles relaxing, ears shifting, the threat dissolving into wary acceptance. The boy exhaled softly, a mix of relief and awe washing over him. The mother smiled faintly, brushing dust from her hands, the morning light highlighting the fine lines of worry and care etched on her face. The pride retreated further into the tall grass, the cub safely reunited with its mother. As they continued along the winding path, the boy's hand clutched hers with renewed trust. Every rustle of leaves, every subtle movement of the lions, had taught him the value of patience, observation, and respect. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, shadows stretching across the golden savannah, as if the land itself acknowledged their delicate passage through it. At a bend in the path, the mother paused, looking back. The pride lingered for a heartbeat longer, then melted into the brush, leaving only the quiet whisper of wind, the soft echo of distant growls, and the lingering imprint of a lesson neither the boy nor his mother would forget. The waterhole lay still beneath the rising sun, mirrored perfectly in the golden surface, broken only by the ripple of an occasional falling leaf. The mother's hand tightened around her son's, guiding him to a shaded ridge overlooking the small clearing. A faint, strained growl drifted across the water. A lion, the young male with the scarred snout, lay half-submerged on the far bank. His breathing was heavier than normal, flanks rising with effort, one paw bent awkwardly. The mother's eyes narrowed in concern. "He's struggling," she whispered, almost to herself. The boy clutched her sleeve, eyes wide, sensing the tension in the air. The savanna around them hummed softly, distant birds calling, the gentle ripple of water, and the occasional thump of a small animal fleeing unseen. Every sound was amplified in the stillness of the morning. The mother observed the pride from a distance. Some lions lingered near the cover of tall grass, tails flicking, ears tilted back, as if debating whether to approach or retreat. The mother crouched slightly, keeping her movements slow, careful. The boy mirrored her, holding his breath with every rustle of reeds and shift of the lion's weight. The young male pawed weakly at the water's edge, sending a small splash toward the bank. His eyes flicked toward them briefly, amber orbs bright and watchful, then lowered again. A sudden, subtle sign caught the mother's attention. The lion's muscles twitched with discomfort, a faint whine escaping his throat. The mother adjusted her stance, signaling to the boy to remain still. "Patience," she murmured, her voice barely audible. Slowly, deliberately, she scanned the area. The pride was alert, not hostile, but the cubs huddled closer to their mothers, instinctively aware of weakness in their ranks. The boy tilted his head, noticing the fine details. The way the water shimmered around the lion's paw, the slight tremor in the cubs' bodies, the dry scent of dust and musk that hung in the warm air. The mother gestured subtly, guiding him to a safer vantage point, each step measured, respectful. The injured lion gave a weak but steady growl, calling his attention to the mother and child without advancing. The mother's presence remained calm, unthreatening. Slowly, she eased the boy backward, creating more distance between them and the waterhole, each movement deliberate and gentle. A moment of tension passed, suspended in the quiet ripples of the water. Then, a subtle miracle. The young male shifted his weight, lowered his paw, and after a slow, labored glance, rose fully to stand. He dipped his head toward the water, drank carefully, then limped away with surprising steadiness. The cubs followed, and the pride melted back into the tall grass, leaving only the gentle lapping of the water and the faint rustle of leaves behind. The mother exhaled, her hand brushing dust from the boy's sleeve. The boy mirrored her expression, awe and relief intermingling as he watched the lions vanish into the savanna. The sunlight reflected off the water, painting the clearing in warm amber tones. A shared glance passed between them, silent acknowledgement of another lesson in observation, patience, and the fragile boundary between caution and trust. As they walked onward, the boy's hand remained in his mother's, the memory of tense moments by the waterhole lingering like the heat of the sun on dry earth, etched forever into the quiet fabric of their journey. The afternoon sun hung low, casting long shadows across the golden savanna. The mother and her son moved slowly along a narrow path lined with dry acacia, their senses alert to every sound, the whisper of the wind, the soft crunch of earth underfoot, the distant rustle of grass. A faint rumble reached them, low, steady, and measured. The pride had not forgotten. From a small clearing, the young male with the scarred snout emerged, eyes fixed but non-threatening. The cubs followed, curious and hesitant, staying close to their mothers. The mother paused, holding the boy behind her. She studied the pride, noting every detail, the tilt of ears, the flick of tails, the subtle shifts in posture. The young male's limp was gone, replaced by a careful, deliberate gait. Yet there was caution in his amber eyes, a silent message of awareness and dominance. The boy's small voice broke the quiet, "They're watching us." Quietly, the mother whispered, placing her hand on his shoulder. "They're curious, not angry." They advanced slowly, the mother's careful guidance keeping the distance safe but close enough for observation. The lions paused, assessing, some lying flat, others rising to stand tall. The mother noted the cubs' tentative steps forward, the way they sniffed the air and tilted their heads at the human's presence. A sudden, almost imperceptible shift occurred. The young male stepped closer, lowering his head, tail brushing lightly against the grass. The mother froze, allowing the boy to take a cautious step backward. The lion's amber eyes met hers, not in threat but in acknowledgement. It was a gesture of trust, subtle yet profound, a silent accord between human and wild. The mother guided the boy gently along the path, maintaining soft, deliberate movements. The cubs followed at a distance, playful but careful. The pride watched them leave, muscles relaxed, ears rotated backward, tails curling around their paws. The savannah exhaled in quiet harmony, the tension dissolving into golden light. By the time they reached the edge of a small ridge, the sun had dipped closer to the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. The mother stopped, letting the boy take in the scene. Lions retreating into the tall grass, the wind stirring dust and scent across the earth, the distant call of a lone bird. He looked at her, eyes wide. They didn't hurt us. No, she said softly, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. Not when we respect them. They stood there for a moment, absorbing the quiet power of the land, the lessons learned in observation, patience, and trust. The boy squeezed her hand, a silent acknowledgement of courage shared and fear faced together. The lions vanished into the shimmering heat, leaving only the gentle sway of grass and the faint scent of musk on the wind. The mother and child walked on, footsteps slow and deliberate, carrying with them the memory of eyes in the wild, of trust earned, and of the delicate, unspoken bond that had passed between human and animal. As the sun dipped lower, casting long, serene shadows across the savannah, the boy whispered one last time, "We'll remember them." And the mother nodded, a quiet smile touching her lips, the weight of the day's events settling into a soft, enduring peace.